Hello everybody, this is Shady here, and for today's video I want to do one for all the collectors out there, specifically people who are getting new into collecting, because obviously it's a very expensive hobby nowadays. So I thought I'd put together a little list for you guys, and so today I want to talk about 5 of the best budget consoles to collect for, in 2024 I guess, and yeah, obviously, I think these ones are all great because the reason why I picked these is one, obviously they're cheap to collect for, and also, most of the libraries are really good. And yeah, I've tried to vary things up as well. Different consoles from different generations and everything. So, there's something covered for everyone. So yeah, and obviously starting off, we're going to go with the oldest to newest. And the first console I want to talk about is the Sega Mega Drive, or Sega Genesis, as people in the States call it. Obviously, this was Sega's second home console, the one to replace the Master System. And what makes this system so great is obviously what happened is Sega, they decided to kind of start the 16-bit generation early. They wanted to beat Nintendo to the punch and really go after them. And obviously, what made this generation in particular so awesome was typically when you'd have a game on both the Super Nintendo and Mega Drive, they'd be different enough, and the Genesis would have its own specific sound or just full-on specific version of a game. It was a really cool time in gaming, very creative time. Obviously, the good thing about 16-bit in particular is, I like 8-bit and everything, but obviously things were just much more improved. The games look a lot nicer and just, they got to grips with gaming a little bit more and you could have a bit more going on. But with Sega, is they obviously did arcade games and everything and made a lot of games in-house. So, it's a very cool, unique library when it comes to gaming anyway. And obviously, when it comes to the system itself, what's so great about this is, you have multiple models of the system. And so you got Model 1 or 2, and then there was a Model 3, which I think technically wasn't done by Sega, and then there's tons of AtGames clone consoles. You got the Mega SG, and then obviously Sega have not been shy with porting Mega Drive games, since the Sega Saturn and beyond. You had just recently on Switch Online, you can play Mega Drive games. So yeah, these games have always been abundant. And there's never really been an issue with being able to get a hold of them. So I think because of that, mainly, the console itself and the games have stayed relatively cheap. Obviously, it probably varies from place to place. Obviously, Mega Drive is massive here in Europe, so there's probably a lot more of it going around here. That's probably part of why it's a little bit cheaper. But yeah, it's just a great system, like I said. So yeah, you can get yourself, I would personally go with a Model 1 or 2 personally. I would avoid the 3 or any of those emulation type systems. Model 2 is your best bet if you want to get the cheapest one. You don't want to be looking to pay anything more than 100 quid really for one. You could definitely pay a lot less than that. And then obviously, as always, get bundles. Most people selling these will be wanting to get rid of their collection, so more than likely you're going to be able to find one with multiple games. When it comes to accessories, obviously you can dive in as much as you want at a later date. You got a 3 and a 6 button version of the controller. The 6 button was basically just made for Street Fighter 2. So for the most part you wouldn't really need that controller, but I would say probably looking to get it at some point. There's tons of modern versions of these controllers and everything as well, and accessories, which is awesome. And yeah, it's just a great system. Games are dirt cheap and everything, and yeah, you're not going to go wrong. You're going to love this system. Next up, we can talk about handheld, one of the biggest of all time, the Game Boy, the Game Boy line specifically. What's really awesome about this is obviously the Game Boy line of consoles sold a tremendous amount, and obviously because of that, it's all stayed relatively cheap. There's tons of different models. I would personally suggest going for a Game Boy Advance, specifically the first model, not the SP. The SP seems to be a lot more expensive, but the original GBA You're not going to find for much more than like an original old Game Boy or Game Boy Color anyway, and you can play GBA games on it. And obviously if you're interested, you can look into doing your own mods and stuff for a backlight, or just get that little torch attachment if you want or something. Or you're probably going to notice you'll be able to get light source anyway. Just leave the lights on anyway, you'll be fine, you know. A lot of the games kind of were designed with their color schemes around not having a backlit light anyway, so it's not a big loss, and a lot of the games I think look better anyway with the non-backlit screen. Yeah, it's a great system. Like I said, the GBA is the one to go for, because then you get Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance all in one. All of these systems are insanely cheap to collect for. Like with the Mega Drive as well. One thing I didn't mention, obviously, with these cart systems, what's great about them is getting the games loose. You typically will find the game you can find it for like half of the price usually. You know, if you care about complete in box, you could go for that. But yeah, if you're going on a budget, just get them loose in cart. You know, there's no point. If you want to look at the manual, look at it online, you know what I mean? Obviously, you know, it depends what kind of collector you are, but if you're a budget collector, loose in cart's the way to go anyway. And yeah, what's really cool about these games, those two systems, Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, is that they felt like they were the prior generation continued. So like Game Boy feels like NES, Game Boy Advance feels like Super Nintendo. So it's like it's almost like having extra games in those consoles, and there's even ports of some of those games. So like you can get A Link to the Past on Game Boy Advance for a lot cheaper than you can the Super Nintendo one. You know, they did the same with the Mario games and all sorts. You know, you had a full-on remake of Metroid Fusion on there and everything. It's just an awesome system. And yeah, the second one I definitely suggest collecting for. Number 3 is the PlayStation 2. The greatest of all time in terms of sales, at least anyway. What's great about the PS2 is obviously because it was the most popular system ever, it sold most. There's tons of them out there, and you can find them relatively cheap. I would say don't pay anything more than like 50, 60 for one. Like, you know, it's really not worth paying more than that, depending on the model. I would also say go for the old Slim. Don't bother with the original model unless you're looking to do any sort of modding or anything. As a budget gamer, probably you're not going to anyway. But yeah, go for a Slim, because you don't have to worry about the lens in comparison to the original one. And yeah, most of the games are dirt cheap, especially when you compare the multiplayer releases. Like, compare the GameCube version of a game to the PS2 one. You are saving so much more. You're getting so much more bang for your buck. So yeah, when it comes to 7th gen, I would say stick with PS2, because you've got all the amazing exclusives, all the great third-party games. You know, everything you want is there. And yeah, what was really good about that particular generation, the 6th gen as well, is that they had a bit more of a grip on 3D. So a lot of these games hold up a hell of a lot more than they would on the 5th gen. Not that I don't hate the 5th gen or anything, but I'm just saying, you know, in general. So even for like younger guys out there who never experienced this system, I think you'll have a great time with PS2. And yeah, the 4th system that I think is worth collecting for budget collectors, is the PlayStation Portable. And yeah, this is really cool, because obviously it's basically a handheld PS2 for starters. Next up, what was really cool about it is it had the UMD format as well. So yeah, it had these basically mini discs or mini DVDs which it played the games on. So it allowed games to hold a lot more space and everything. And obviously one of the weirdest things because of that, and because it's Sony, is they released movies on this. So if you're really into the collecting, you can buy like the movies that are available there. Like I think when they originally released it, you got the first Spider-Man movie on UMD with the original bundles or something weird like that. But yeah, again, with this one, there's multiple models. There's technically 5, but 4 models you should care about. You've got the 1000, which is the one you're probably going to get the cheapest, because obviously it was the Generation 1 Sony console, so it had a few bugs to iron out and whatnot. The eject feature, for example, is a bit bulkier. Still a good way to play it. Sorry. And obviously the 2000, that's the model I have. That's like essentially the slim down, better screen, and just an overall great model. And then you have the 3000, which is typically the one that's going to be the most expensive. Maybe the one you're going to avoid if you're doing your budget stuff anyway. And then then there was the European exclusive E1000, which was like an ultra budget version of the console, which had no like Wi-Fi capabilities or anything. And yeah, that might be the one you'll want to look at. The only problem with that one is it has stereo sound, or mono sound, not stereo. So I'm personally going to say go with the 2000. Like I said, yeah, the system really isn't too expensive. The only thing is you'll need to make sure you have a Memory Stick Pro Duo, which is like the proprietary memory card, just for saves basically. Yeah, because obviously it uses optical media and it didn't have any built-in memory, so that's the one. And like I said, games are really cheap. And what was really cool is there was a lot of port of like PS2 games, and there was even some random like PS3 360 games that had PSP versions, like Tekken 6, for example, had a PSP version. And there was also like, what was it? The Prince of Persia games, they had versions. Blaze Blue, Calamity Trigger had a PSP version. And yeah, like, think of a great console genre you like, and you have a PSP game. There was even an amazing Metal Gear game on there, Peace Walkers, which later did get ported to the HD collection. But yeah, it's a really awesome game. Final Fantasy as well, Crisis Core, another great game to get on there. Yeah, like I said, none of these games are too expensive, and it's all amazing stuff. So yeah, that's the 4th best console to collect for a budget. And then lastly, we got the Xbox 360. Probably the best console in the 7th gen. And what's really cool, so this is the thing with Xbox in general, their consoles always seem to be really freaking cheap. So really, you can't really go wrong with collecting any of the Xboxes, even if you want the OG, the one, whatnot. Yeah, for some reason, their stuff just has never been too expensive. So yeah, but the 360 was just an amazing system. It's HD, for example, or for stars, which means you can just plug it into your new TV and there's no issue. You don't have to worry about getting out a CRT TV. You don't have to worry about, getting any kind of upscaling things and all that sort of nonsense. It just works. Also, what is amazing about the system is it basically always had, for the most part, the best version of a game released on the consoles. The 360 version was almost always better than the PS3 one. It ran a little bit nicer and whatnot. Usually looked a bit better because of better anti-aliasing and stuff. And yeah, it's just an overall great system. The console itself also had a bajillion different SKUs. So you have the original system with the 20 gig model. Then they released like the Elite, and there was like the 60 gig model. And then you have the Slim line, and then the E models. Obviously, if you want to be really cheap, you can get that original Xbox 360, that model. What's really cool about that is you can even get like memory cards for it and everything, which is cool. The only thing with that is they are prone to do it for the Red Ring of Death. So you're going to want to get the 60 gig model if you're going to do that. That was the one with the Jasper hard drive, so it's the more reliable. But obviously, I would say just spend a little bit more and get a Slim instead. And yeah, you're going to be fine. I think you don't have to worry about reliability or anything. And like I said, the games are absolutely dirt cheap because we're like 2 generations ahead now. Like with all consoles, you have the few really expensive games, like a lot of the shmups and stuff, the likes of Dodonpachi, Otai Kitano, all of those games. But besides that, it's really cheap. Like, I remember not too long ago, there was a site online. I managed to get like, I think it was like 4 360 games for a tenner or something like that. If you go to any kind of retro game store, they're going to be doing like, they're going to be like a couple of quid at most. There'll be a lot of like buy one get one frees. I managed to get like a steelbook of like, I think it was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 for like £1 for 360 or something like that, I think it was. Obviously PS3 is also quite cheap as well for the most part, but the thing is the console itself was a bit more expensive in comparison to 360. But yeah, that's why I went for the 360. But yeah, it's just a really solid system. And obviously the best part about that particular system is, you know, it's not that far of, or like, you know, there was a lot of great enhancements and advancements with technology. So obviously the games hold up really well, look great and everything. Yeah, there's tons of amazing games on there. And yeah, you're just gonna have a great time with that one, I think. And yeah, that is my top 5 best consoles for budget collectors. And yeah, like I said, you know, there's no reason to have to spend a crazy amount of money to be a collector. You know, we have systems like that. There's even more budget systems out there. You know, you just go out there, do some hunting, hit the retro game stores. You don't just have to rely on eBay. Obviously things are a little bit tougher now because it feels like everyone knows what they have, and like because the information is out there, everything is a bit more pricey. But yeah, you know, go out there, have fun collecting, and as always, thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one.